Welcome, and thank you for joining this second session of behavioral science concepts most leaders were never taught. In session one last month, we explored how emotions and perceptions shape judgment. We looked at how feelings, emotional states, and the emotional climate around us can influence what we notice, how we interpret a situation, and ultimately what we decide. That session was mostly about noticing. Okay. Today, we move from noticing to doing something about it. We continue with the same overarching question. Why do intelligent and experienced people still make poor decisions, even when they have good intentions and plenty at stake? Okay. This time, we will look more closely at how decisions are shaped by the way choices are framed and designed. Here we go. Okie dokie. So, frame decisions and design choices. Today, we will explore four concepts: prospect theory, defaults, friction, and if-then plans. All right, let's already dive in. First concept, prospect theory. Last session, we talked about Daniel Kahneman and the affect heuristic, which explains how our immediate emotional reaction can steer our judgment before the facts are objectively examined. Prospect theory goes one step further by showing that we depart from logic and rationality in systematic and predictable ways when making decisions under risk and uncertainty. This is groundbreaking work that brought psychology into economics, which Kahneman, a psychologist, was awarded the 2002 Nobel Prize in Economics. Amos Tversky, Kahneman's research partner, had sadly passed away 6 years earlier, and since the Nobel Prize is not awarded posthumously, only Kahneman received the prize. So, what is prospect theory? Prospect means a possible outcome, option, or future possibility. Right? Pardon me, Okay. Prospect means a possible outcome, option, or future possibility. Kahneman and Tversky identified three recurring patterns in how we evaluate these prospects. The first one is loss aversion. Losses hurt
Sorry,
more than...
loss aversion.
That's right, loss aversion. Yes. Okay. Okay. So the first one, loss aversion. Losses hurt more than equivalent gains feel good, roughly by a factor of 2 to 1. Losing $100 hurts twice as much as winning $100 feels good. This 2 to 1 ratio, interestingly, it's fairly consistent across, across studies. Now, the lesson here is that people are often more motivated to protect what they might lose than to pursue what they might gain. That's why we see so much self-protective behavior in the office and in the world. Protecting status, certainty, relationships, identity, the need to look good or avoid looking bad, and the need to retain flexibility, freedom, and fairness. These are all things that can feel more important than a solid business case or attractive for future opportunity. That's what loss aversion is about. Second, reference point dependence. We judge against a baseline, not only the absolute outcome. That baseline might be what we expected, what we had before, what other people received, or what we believe is fair. A team that expected a 10% budget increase may experience a flat budget as a loss. A team that expected a 10% budget cut may experience the same flat budget as a relief. It's the same outcome, but the opposite reaction. This is why, relative to what are we judging this, is such a useful question to put on the table. On different occasions, I've talked about how difficult it can be to create shared understanding. What looked like an agreement may not actually be shared understanding until it is checked. A number may have been agreed, but people may have different impressions of what it means because they're measuring from different baselines. Once the baseline is brought into the open, you can have a more useful dialogue toward building shared understanding. Third, diminishing sensitivity. We are highly sensitive to changes near our baseline but we become less sensitive as numbers get larger. $10 matters a great deal between $10 and $20, right? But between $1,010 and $1,020, it feels like nothing. Even though the difference is still $10, we become less sensitive to the change. So, what's the implication? It's in framing. Same facts, different frame, different feeling, different judgment. Let me give you a few examples. Our defect rate is 1%. This draws attention to failure and the remaining risk. This is because of loss aversion. People tend to react more strongly to the possibility of failure than to the same level of success. Now, if you say we are 99% defect-free, the same fact now directs attention to reliability and progress. Another example. We saved $10,000 and we saved 20% of the project budget. Describe the same saving. But to executives used to large numbers, $10,000 may sound small. 20% of the project budget gives people the right reference point. Now, stopping a project. If you say we are writing off 6 months of work, and instead we are redirecting our investment to a better opportunity, this can describe the same decision to stop a project, but with a different impression. The first makes people feel the loss immediately, which can trigger sunk cost thinking. The second does not erase the loss, but it shifts attention to the better use of future time, money, and energy. This is a familiar example nowadays, yeah? Working from home. Working from home is limited to 2 days versus we are protecting 3 shared collaboration days. The same policy can feel like a restriction or like a deliberate trade-off made to protect collaboration. A good frame does not deny the feeling of loss, but it does help people understand what the loss is being weighted against. Framing is a leadership meta skill, and leaders have a lot of influence over it. So you need to use it wisely. Framing can be used for manipulation, but I wouldn't recommend that. People are usually very good at sensing even a hint of manipulation. So use framing fairly to clarify the feeling of gains and losses, the real trade-offs, and the reference points. In every example on this slide, both frames are true and there are no deliberate omissions. The facts are identical. The only difference is what the framing invites people to notice first. When considering your framing, say it both ways. Draft the gain frame and the loss frame of the same facts and see whether the preference moves. If it flips, you may have found a real framing opportunity. That's a signal that wording carries weight in this particular decision. So it's worth a minute of thought rather than reaching for the first phrasing that comes to mind. And again, on the fairness point, choose the framing that clarifies the decision, not the one that concedes the trade-off. Shaifuzaki, what we'll do is that we'll have an open discussion in the very end. So if you can take notes of our questions, and I'll make sure to refer that. Okay, I'll be looking forward to your question and comments later. So the point is not to manipulate people into agreement, but to make choices easier to understand and judge. Used well, framing provides clarity, helps people respond with less defensiveness, and supports better decision-making together. Concept number 2, defaults. Prospect theory showed us how framing changes the way a choice feels. Defaults come one step earlier before that. They shape what happens when no active choice is made at all. A default is the option, behavior, or practice that stays in place when nobody makes an active choice. It could be the first item on a form, a work routine whose origin is unclear, or a recurring meeting that nobody cancels. Defaults are everywhere. Defaults show up as a norm, a standard, a routine, a precedent, an expectation, or just how we do things here. They quietly shape behavior without instruction and are closely tied to societal and organizational norms and culture. We need defaults because nobody can decide everything from scratch. A sensible default conserves attention for the choices that genuinely need it and allows people to move through the small decisions in a day without stopping to deliberate over each one. Helpful defaults can literally make people's life easier. They remove the need to remember or remake the sensible choice again and again. They can also reduce social effort by making the cooperative, safe, or broadly useful action the easiest one to take. Calendar notifications and automatic spell checking on our phones and computers, these are familiar functional defaults. Meanwhile, greetings and saying please and thank you, these are social defaults we barely notice. But defaults also carry a cost. Because they attract little scrutiny, old defaults can preserve outdated practices, fixed assumptions, and unnecessary burdens long after they have stopped serving people well. Bureaucracy. It's a classic example. Like defaults, bureaucracy serves a purpose and we need it. It brings order, consistency, and accountability. But over time, the system can begin protecting its processes rather than the purpose those processes were meant to serve. When rules, approvals, forms, and controls accumulate without being revisited, they create invisible weight, slowing decisions, weakening judgment, and teaching people that compliance matters more than independent thinking. So what? Defaults are a central tool in choice architecture and nudge theory, the body of work for which Richard Taylor won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2017. The core idea is simple. Whoever designs the option also shapes the choice people make. If you lead a team, you are already doing this through your routines, your meeting designs, and your decision rights, and the systems people use. The question is not whether you shape choices, but whether you do it deliberately as a choice architect. People disproportionately stay with defaults for three important reasons. The first is inertia. Sticking with what is already in place is a low energy choice, while changing it takes effort and carries the risk of disruption. The second is implied endorsement. People assume the default was set for a reason, so it feels like a quiet recommendation. The third is reference point. Once a
Sorry,
default
what
is,
was the second one, Takeshi?
yeah, the second one was implied endorsement.
Thank you.
No. The third is reference point. Once a default is in place, alternatives are judged as changes from it rather than as equal choices. And that gives the default choice an outsized weight. Knowing that people may be unwittingly sticking with the default for these reasons is really important because it helps us recognize that people may not always be making choices that reflect their actual preferences. When a project keeps running, it may not be because everyone still believes in it. Continuation may simply be the default. A leader may feel frustrated by repeated requests for approval, and they might interpret them as weakened initiative from their people. In reality, people may simply be following the system they were taught to follow. What we call passivity, weak ownership, or resistance may not be a problem with the person at all. The issue may be systemic, rooted in the default they are sitting inside. Now, if you choose to practice choice architecture deliberately, approach it at the intersection of facilitated leadership and emotional intelligence. Facilitated leadership examines what in the environment is shaping how people participate, decide, and act. Emotional intelligence examines how people experience those conditions, including frustration, hesitation, exclusion, resignation, and cognitive load. Together, they help leaders design defaults that support better work without quietly taking meaningful choice away. Yeah? It preserves agency. So, 4 moves. First, notice. Pay attention to what the team treats as normal, automatic, or already decided. What are those defaults producing? Second, challenge. Which defaults have outlived their purpose or create burdens people have simply learned to tolerate? Third, remove. Take the default away where the decision genuinely deserves attention, ownership, or reflection. Some choices should not be made by inertia. Fourth, design. Redesign everyday conditions so that good work requires less effort, negotiation, and individual willpower. If you're an agile coach, a 15-minute daily stand-up, that's a good example of a helpful default. Yeah. A 15-minute daily stand-up, for example, makes quick team synchronization the norm rather than allowing a daily meeting to expand. We all have experiences in morning meeting becomes 1 hour or 1 hour 15 and more, right? Yeah. The daily stand-up is time boxed at 15 minutes. You're not allowed to spill over. Anything beyond that, you have to take it out. That's the default. Pretty smart, right? Yeah. A clear expectation that messages sent after working hours require no immediate response protects personal time without each employee having to negotiate it. If the leader can do that, as a default, that is very emotionally intelligent. It's very considerate. A leader who speaks less, but not to judge, gives team members space to form and express their own views before hearing the most influential opinion in the room. Great anti-group thinking mechanism. Make that a default. As with framing, managing defaults is not without risk. A new rule disguised as a default may simply add burden and deepen resentment towards compliance. So use your facilitated leadership and emotional intelligence to keep defaults enabling rather than controlling. Friction. Friction is the close cousin of defaults. Between them, they govern far more everyday behavior than motivation, persuasion, or accountability. Friction is relatively easy to address, but it often escapes the attention of leaders. And that's where the opportunity is. So let's take a look. Friction is anything between an intention and an action that makes the action cost more in steps, time, attention, or effort. Like defaults, friction fades into the background of everyday business and goes unnoticed until we pay attention to it. We get used to the multiple data entries and the copy this from email and paste into the spreadsheet tool hopping routines, right? We put up with searching documents in clutter folders, meeting overloads, approval bottlenecks, ambiguous roles, and fuzzy ownership, constant context switching, and an always-on culture. Friction is everywhere, and it's exhausting. Friction stops action because the effort is immediate, while the benefit comes later, delayed gratification. It costs us now. It taxes us. Removing friction. Removing friction is an established practice in process management. Lean works to reduce muda and mudi. Agile teams remove impediments. Many of you are familiar, right? Yeah. Now, what tends to get missed is that friction is not only functional, physical, or mechanical. It can be cognitive, emotional, and behavioral as well. A process may function technically, yet still be mentally difficult to follow. That's why even agile coaches and lean practitioners, people who practice process, also need to learn emotional intelligence and behavioral science. That's the importance here. Okay, so what? Addressing friction is a low-hanging fruit opportunity. One of the rare places where a small change can improve team performance without persuasion or budget. Start by noticing how it hides. When a team member repeatedly fails to follow through, we tend to make a character judgment and conclude that they lack motivation, discipline, or commitment. Yeah, remember fundamental attribution error from last session? Sometimes that is right, but before judging the person, look at the path they are being asked to take. Friction may be at play. Concerns about weak ownership, accountability, and initiative may have more to do with friction than you realize. Friction quietly pushes people towards shortcuts, workarounds, and whatever is easiest in the moment. It drains attention that could otherwise go into independent judgment, learning, and creativity. That said, not all friction is bad. Here we go. Okay, not all friction is bad. Bad friction adds cost without protecting anything of value. Good friction, it still adds cost, but it protects value. A second review on anything touching client money. A pre-mortem before an important launch. A clear escalation threshold or a deliberate pause before an emotionally charged response. They all require effort, but that effort serves a purpose. Okay. And no friction. This itself is a problem on its own, because effort is what makes people stop, question, and think. Remove all friction, and decisions can become fast, but thin. Again, facilitative leadership as what's in the environment is helping or hindering good work. Emotional intelligence as how people are actually experiencing those conditions. As with defaults, managing friction draws on both. 3 moves to manage friction: audit, remove, and add. First, audit. Trace one real piece of work from intention to action. Notice where people wait, search, they repeat information, switch tools, hesitate, seek permission, they become uncertain, or they quietly give up. Second, remove. Simplify or eliminate steps that add effort without improving quality, safety, judgment, or accountability. Clarify roles and ownership. Reduce unnecessary handoffs and challenge controls that have outlived their purpose. Third, add. Introduce friction deliberately where slowing down or pausing adds value through inspection and better decision making. Every added step should have a purpose that can be explained out loud to the person paying the cost. Managing friction is a perspective-taking skill as much as a process skill. People genuinely appreciate leaders who remove burdens that everyone else has simply learned to live with, while preserving the effort that supports judgment, learning, quality, and safety. We looked at 3 ways choices are shaped. Prospect theory showed framing changes the way people evaluate gains, losses, and risks. Defaults showed what happens when nobody makes an active choice. Friction showed how even small amounts of effort can influence action. This final concept addresses what happens after we have formed an intention. How do we actually follow through? The gap between deciding something and doing is where many good intention quietly dies. And an if-then plan is one of the most effective tools for closing it. The formula is super simple. If X happens, then I will do Y. An if-then plan is a ready-made action triggered by a recognizable cue. In behavioral science, Peter Goldwitzer called this an implementation intention. He distinguished it from goal intention. A goal intention might say, I intend to listen more carefully. It describes what I want to do, but it leaves the actual moment of action undecided. An implementation intention fills in that moment with a pre-planned response. If I catch myself preparing my reply while they talk, then I will refocus on their last sentence. Because the response has already been chosen, far less deliberation is needed at the point of action, which is exactly when deliberation is often least reliable. It reduces reliance on willpower precisely when habit, emotion, fatigue, distraction, or urgency might otherwise take over. So what? This is why I call implementation intentions follow through by design. Repeated failure to follow through erodes confidence and trust, which costs more than the missed task itself. For the individual, each miss can register as guilt, shame, and frustration. For others, those misses can accumulate into a label, someone unreliable, someone you should not expect too much from. If then plans can help rebuild both self-confidence and the trust from others. Well, then, yeah. The important reframe here is that follow-through is often situational rather than simply a matter of willpower or character. Sometimes the obstacle is structural, not personal. Conflicting priorities, excessive workload, insufficient authority, missing capability, or lack of psychological safety may be the real obstacle. And if then plan can help someone surface it, set a boundary, ask for support, or escalate it earlier. The leadership responsibility here is to stay alert to what the pattern is revealing. When follow through keeps failing, do not automatically prescribe more discipline. Yeah. Don't say, work harder. Oh, it's not going to work. Instead, examine whether the workload, authority, capability, priority, or environment also needs to change. Finally, now what? How do we put this into practice? If-then plans are particularly useful in three situations. First, starting. Use a specific cue to start something you keep deferring. For example, if I schedule a client call, then I'll also block 10 minutes immediately afterwards to write the call memo. Yes. This is something I actually do because I keep on forgetting, taking my client calls and move on to the next one. Right. Second, shielding. Plan for the predictable interruption, temptation, or emotional reaction. If the discussion turns personal, then I will name what we are actually disagreeing about and bring the conversation back to the issue. An incredibly emotionally intelligent way to prevent escalation. Third, recovering. Plan for the lapse because most efforts do not fail at the beginning. They unravel after the first exception. If I realize I forgot to follow up with a client, then I will immediately send a brief note saying I will follow up shortly. Yeah. This is something I actually do. My urge to drop everything else and do that client work that I forgot. Sometimes I don't have time, but still communicating with the client. Yes, that's a good step and also a personal commitment that you will follow up. So that's an if then plan I use. All right. So next, the design rules. Okay, design rules. Make the trigger specific and observable. Make the response small and within your control. Avoid vague triggers like if I feel unmotivated and vague responses like then I will try harder. When suggesting an if-then plan to another person, do not simply hand them your plan. Ask where the intention keeps breaking down and let them name the situation and write their own response. The plan is more likely to work when they have made the connection between the trigger and the action for themselves. For teams, use if-then plans to make values practical. We are a respectful team because if someone is interrupted, then we will invite them to finish before moving on. We hold each other accountable because if a commitment is going to slip, then the person who made it will raise it before anyone has to ask. All right. So one final point. Treat the plan as a hypothesis. Remember hot code empathy gap from the last session? Okay. Hot code empathy gap reminds us we are not always good at imagining how we will behave in a future emotional state. Your first plan might be slightly wrong. The trigger may be too vague, the response too ambiguous, or the situation different from what you expected. You're making plans with a cold mind where you're trying to bring out the if-then plans, on the moment. That might actually not be the hot situation that you imagined when you were cold. But that's fine. Many if situations recur, so each recurrence gives you another chance to test the plan. Frame it, test it, and refine it. This feedback loop is what turns if-then plans from a technique you use occasionally into a habit that compounds. Alrighty, let's wrap up. Again, the core thread running through this Behavioral Science Dojo series is how to work intelligently with emotions. Today, we apply this to framing decisions and designing choices. Why is this perspective important? Because emotions are information. They help us notice what matters. Frustration may reveal friction in the process. Hesitation may alert us that the way a choice is framed is influencing the decision. Emotions are not always facts, but they are important signals worth examining. Second, because decisions are shaped by context, we tend to treat a decision as though it is weighed purely on its merits, but context is part of the decision itself. Impressions, feelings, timing, the surrounding environment and situation, and the mental and physical state, these all influence what we notice, how we interpret the option, and what we choose. Change the context, and the decision may change, even when the underlying facts remain the same. And third, because good intentions need good design. Telling people to make better choices, try harder, or remember what they agreed to is often not really helpful advice. Design is an important element of facilitative leadership. We can support better action by shaping the conditions around the decision, so the better choice is easier to notice, easier to make, and easier to follow through. So, how do we work with these ideas in practice? Excuse me. The same as in the last session. Know, catch, and practice. Know what to look out for. Today, you learned 4 more concepts that help you recognize these patterns. This knowledge gives you an information advantage as a leader, so use it. Catch those patterns as they happen, in your own thinking and in other people's responses, and in the way decisions and process are set up. And finally, practice. Apply the knowledge and treat each intervention as a hypothesis to test. If it lands flat, don't be discouraged. Learn from what happened, adapt, and try again. Today, we explored 4 concepts. Prospect theory showed us that people respond differently to gains and losses, depending on how a choice is framed and the reference point they are using. Defaults showed us that what happens automatically often shapes behavior more than we realize. And if-then plans showed us how to prepare in advance for the moments when good intentions fail to translate into follow-through. Taken together, these concepts remind us that better decisions are not only about thinking harder, they're also about noticing what is shaping the decision and designing the conditions that make better action more likely. That takes emotional intelligence. Thank you. I'll stop the recording now. Let's move into the discussion and explore how these ideas show up in your own work.